Beware the subtle effects of pride. You may not think of yourself as a prideful, arrogant, snobby person, but are you letting subtle effects of pride steal your joy, hurt the quality of your life, and hurt your ability to be able to find peace in the midst of your storms? Stay tuned. There's a couple of important points I want you to understand that can really help your life. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Monty Miller, licensed psychologist. I'm working on doing online counseling now and have my website up, and I'm all excited about all this stuff and do a lot of Instagram stuff. Check my stuff out. Please hit subscribe and like if you're not familiar with me. I work in nursing homes. I've been doing so for 20 years now, dealing with people who are severely hurt, severely have a loss, for so many losses in their life, so many storms in their lives that most of us just can't imagine how traumatic it's been for these people. They're in the right mind, but I've learned a lot from them to be able to help them cope with it, that I can take from them to help other people. So that's the whole point of this ministry. So please support me in that. The more you like me and subscribe, the more the YouTube will get this out to other people who might need to hear this message. So please share and help me out. I appreciate it. All right, pride. I started learning from watching some old folks in the nursing homes that most people I work with claim to be Christian. And most people are pretty nice, sweet people who are just depressed and anxious because of their problems. It's very normal to be depressed and upset in those situations. Nothing's typically very wrong with them. However, I started noticing that some people just complain. And it's certainly hard to get perfect care at any of these places. The places I work at are pretty good places, but they're never going to be perfect care. And so some people are just completely, honestly, just so negative. I started looking, it's like, even though they claim to be a Christian, and they're not an arrogant, snubby person, they are being prideful. Now, when we think of pride, we think of someone who's narcissistic, who's just like, oh, look how pretty I am, look how hot I am. And I can never do anything wrong. I'll never admit that I do anything wrong. I can never say I'm sorry, and I'm just always better than that. And yes, that is certainly pride. But there's also other ways of looking at pride. Some really core things that, honestly, every single sin we do is pride. And a lot of the ways that we struggle with our mental health, even in the midst of storms that are hit us that aren't our fault, pride still gets in the way. I want to help explain that to you. All right. So think about Adam and Eve, the original sins, the original sinners. What did they do wrong? They had everything going for them. They had one rule: don't eat of that one tree and of this fruit. That's all I ask. And they had perfect harmony and everything was wonderful and beautiful. But what did they do? They thought they could know better. They took the serpent's word for it and said, yeah, you should do this and you'll be as smart as God. So even though God made them and gave them everything, they thought they knew better and they did it their own way, and all hell broke loose, hadn't it? And we're really no different ourselves. We would all pick that. So what is that pride? There's two big components of pride I want you to look at. The first part of it is, do you think you know better than God? And the other way of looking at it, slightly different but still similar, is that thinking that we just want to do it our way. So one part is, I think God knows better. The other part is, I think I want to do it my way. So those two ways are how we get into all kind of problems. Okay, let's take some examples. Certainly there's big sins like just anger and pettiness and cheating on spouse, on your taxes, taking money, that kind of stuff. There's certainly, obviously, you're doing it your way, not God's way. But even subtle sins. Let's say you just take too much time for yourself. It's like you just want it your time. You get home from work and this is my time, and so you're kind of mean and rude to your family because you deserve that time. Or let's say you're gossiping and you kind of subtly say bad things about somebody else who's not there to defend themselves. That's a terrible thing in churches that can really hurt people terribly, and yet we don't hardly address it. But in that moment, you'd rather share something with your friends to make yourself look better, and even though it might hurt somebody else. You're putting your needs ahead of somebody else. Okay, let me look at it this way. 3 basic emotions. Well, really, there's all emotional words you can think of fit in 4 categories: happy, sad, angry, or scared. Now, happy is easy. We don't have to worry about that because that takes care of itself. No one worries about happiness. That's wonderful. But the three negative emotions, these are three psychological issues that we all have to deal with. And sometimes it's perfectly normal to deal with these problems, but let's look at all three of them and see how each one could be affected by pride. So let's take sadness, depression. Especially when you're going through hard storms in your life, of course you're going to be depressed. Nothing's necessarily sinful about being depressed for a little bit. But if you go on too long, even after something terrible's happened, you are still subtly being prideful. You're not trusting in God. You're not sitting there saying, God, look, I know you've given me all these wonderful things, but I'm just feeling sorry for myself for what I don't have. Again, nothing wrong with feeling sorry for yourself. I prescribe it. Tell people, go have a pity party every now and then, but just for a little bit. If you go on for months and months and years of saying, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, you don't get over it. You don't try to get over it. You're just wallowing in self-pity. You're trying to make things happen that can't happen. You're not accepting things that should be accepted. But you're doing all that because you're not trusting in God. You're not looking at what all He's done for you and finding the joy that He has given you. Especially when we talk about the future in heaven and you're not looking at all that. You're not trusting in Him. That's still pride. You're still trusting yourself before you trust Him. Now, the second thing is anxiety. So when you're anxious, you're scared, you're worried, you're feeling like something's wrong. Of course, as a Christian, then we want to sit there and think, okay, I'm not really trusting in God this way either, because I'm afraid that He's going to let something tragic happen to me. Now, of course, a little bit of anxiety is understandable, and bad things do happen, and you may sit there and afraid of something bad happening, and then it happens, and say, see, I had a right to be anxious. Yes, absolutely. I don't want to take away that from anybody. But at the same time, if you're being overly anxious, are you trusting in God? He provides food for the birds in the field. Will He not provide for you? I've been dealing with financial struggles, and trust me, I understand this anxiety. I've woken up in the middle of the night thinking, oh crap, how am I going to pay for this? How's this going to happen? Or what if this happens? And then bad things do happen. But I've always been fed. I've always had a roof over my head. By the grace of God and grace of other people, I've always managed, and God's pulling me out of it. He's working hard. He's doing great. But I still have to trust Him. It's an exercise of faith that, and if I don't, I'm being prideful. I think I can handle it myself. And of course, I know I can't handle it myself. So I get upset and I get worried. But if I just trusted that God is a bigger God than me, He's got it in the bag. He's proven it over and over again that He's got my back. Why do I doubt Him again? Again, pride. All right, now the third one, anger. That's an easier one to look at also. It's like when you lose your temper, and that's again, when things aren't fair in life. Life is often not fair. Bad things do happen. Sometimes I question myself because I look at all the financial situation and other things, the romantic situations I was in the past, and I think, that's not fair. I was doing my part. Why did it not work out for me? It's not fair. Boo-hoo and pout. And I think I have a right to, I still think I have a right to say it's not fair. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I still think that. But it doesn't matter. I don't have a right to get angry and storm off and take my anger out on other people, or certainly out on God. I've still been given so much, more than I deserve, more than I deserve. And so, yeah, people have been wronged me, but I've wronged God, and yet He still loves me and provides for me. So, again, pride. Take yourself out of the equation. The Bible says we are to die to ourselves, to quit worrying about ourselves. Now let me hold the category that I want to look at. I know a lot of people who aren't mean people. There aren't bad people. But they're not very thoughtful people. They just go in their own little world. Okay, what can I do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And they forget the loved ones around them. They don't think, what can I do to help somebody else? A key term I came up with is, does it make you happy to make others happy? And a lot of times, a lot of people, it doesn't. They don't worry about making other people happy. They just worry about themselves, making themselves happy. And they're not mean people. They're not trying to hurt anybody. But you're not thoughtful. If you're not thoughtful, you're still putting your needs above theirs. And in the eyes of God, that's still wrong. That's not what God wants you to do. He wants you to put God first, other people second. Still love yourself, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with taking some time for yourself. Nothing wrong with looking at your world. Nothing wrong with feeling sorry for yourself. All that is okay in quantities, but not too much. Otherwise, you're being prideful. So really take a hard look at yourself and your life and your situation and sit there and say, God, am I giving you the glory? Am I trusting in you? Think about this, people. I'll leave you this final thought. Who made us? God. God made us. He's our inventor. He's our creator. He's our designer. He's our master engineer, a brilliant, amazing person who created this human body and our world we live in, such wonderful things in our world. He wrote the instruction manual, the Bible. He tells us how to live and what to do to make joy, have joy in your life, no matter what the storm of your life. He knows what's going on, and he's proven he loves us. He's proven he's smart. He's proven he's involved, and he cares. Trust him. Give it to God and do it. I've told this before in stories, but little story with my daughter when she was young. She'd get up on a countertop and she'd just fall backwards into my arms. Just a little bit at first. I'd be in her hands right there, but I'd fall further, and she'd fall further and further back before I'd catch her. She learned trust. She learned to trust me. That's what we need to do with God. God, I'm just giving this in your hands, and we'll trust that you're going to catch me. Take a deep breath. You go on about your day and you just smile. It's like, all right, God's got me. You have to have an act of faith there. And if you don't have that faith, ask for more faith. God, forgive me for my unbelief and help me get stronger in my faith. It's okay to say that. It's okay to admit it, that you're weak. Just work towards it. Admit you have pride, that you're leaning on yourself and not on God. And you'll do so much better. You'll find that peace in your storm if you just let go of yourself and give it all up to God. Here's hoping you have peace in your storms. Please subscribe, like, share, help me out with all this stuff. Thanks so much for watching till the end. I really appreciate it. God bless you.